Shalom, Hebrews. This is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. Alright, Hebrews. I had did a map showing how close Egypt was to the promised land. I'm talking about basically running distance, a straight shot. And I'm going to go back over the map again because it's startling to me, because I always looked at a paper math. You know what I'm saying? I always had the paper math. You know what I'm saying? You really can't feel the maths and how close, you know what I'm saying, Egypt is to the promised land until you look at it by satellite. Satellite is like the real thing, man. I'm talking about, it show you everything. You know, it show you the little villages and towns and so forth, and settlements, you know, between Egypt and the promised land. But basically it's a straight shot, and I want to go into that again. And like in the other video, I had mentioned how the Hebrews were running to Egypt, you know what I'm saying? And I showed how, you know, we said that we always wanted to return back to Egypt. But it's basically startling, man. I'm talking about, this man buggling to see how close the promised land is to Egypt. And then the thing is, the world haven't even considered, you know, it's like, you know, during the 1500s and 1600s, they like made, I mean, it seemed like a joke how the historians and traders in Africa make jokes and say, oh, the 10 lost tribes is over here, and I seen them, and we did trade with them and all that. You know, they had all type of historians, you know, the mostly Edomite historians that did trade. And then how, you know, that they say that they seen the Hebrews and in Africa, and how it's really just really been quiet about that. You know, they got history showing that different people, you know, try to pinpoint the Hebrews in Africa, but it was basically coming off that 10 lost tribe myth. Not one time have anybody said that the Hebrews ran into Africa during the Babylonian Wars. Now I'm gonna show you it's a real importance to show the difference, you know, because when they say, well, the Hebrews went into Africa during the Assyrian captivity, and they, you know, and then it's rumored that the Hebrews went all over the earth during the Assyrian captivity. But, you know, I showed that that's a lie, and that it never was any 10 lost tribes from the beginning. So that brings us back, you know, to the next event that the Hebrews will be facing, and then that's the Babylonian Wars. You know, and that how we Hebrews, you know, during the Babylonian Wars, we went into Africa, and how world history has been blank on that. See, they know that if they start to acknowledge that the Hebrews went into Africa during the Babylonian Wars, and that is proof that they never came back home, because you have the exiles prophet history, and it was the Hebrews that went into Africa to live and stay. What's the reason why you know, the whole kingdom was broke up, and you know, we lost our covenant and our heritage, because it was the Hebrews that ran into Africa, that constitute the 99%, you know, went into Africa to live, and you know, they never returned home. And then how you know this is because you have the exile prophets history. You know, they recorded history real good of what was going on back then. And you got Ezra, Haggai, Zechariah, the book of Esther, Nehemiah, and Malachi gonna be the last book. And then how those Hebrews that ran into Africa never came back out to be reunited with the Hebrews that say that they was gonna come back and try to follow the covenant law that Moses had gave to us. You know, even though we know that they was, you know, destroyed and got tricked out the land and all kind of stuff. You know, the exile history is kind of like a separate history from the Hebrews that ran into Africa, because, you know, with the ones that ran into Africa, you know for sure that they didn't come back, and you know what happened to them. And we know it was prophecies, for slavery and to go into a bondage for breaking the covenant. So the ones in Africa had to be the ones that would have got the curses and took into a strange land in bondage because, they broke the covenant and said that they didn't want to do the law no more. So you should see that type of activity in Africa concerning the people being enslaved and taken to a strange land. But it's like that world map. Man, I want to do that. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to show that again. And I believe in all my videos, I'm going to probably start to include the maps until the Hebrews start waking up and realize what's going on and realize that this is real serious and that we can show that we the Hebrews easily. You see what I'm saying? They've been trying to stall this and keep this at bay, our enemies, because they never want us to make a connection to the Israelite heritage. And basically world history is based upon that lie and that deception. Real history ain't been told because real history, what I'm saying, done left the Israelites out. The history that they say is real left the Israelites out and ain't never tried to explain what happened to the Hebrews that ran into Africa to do the Egyptian religion. They constitute the majority of the Israelite nation since it never was any 10 lost tribes. And I showed that 1% that was taken to Babylon made it home. And then, what would happen to them? Okay, Hebrews, I know y'all see this image, that I got up here. About the baboons trained in ancient Egypt to catch criminals. And, man, that's a cold thing. How the Egyptians had animals capture you. The Egyptians had a police force. The Egyptians had a police force, and one of the first police force, and a police force was named the Metajays. The Metajay, what I'm saying? That's the name of their police force. And then, they would capture you. You know what I'm saying? They basically the same type of police force that we got today. And then they would capture you with baboons. Baboons. They'll use some baboons to capture you. If you done stole something and you was a criminal and you was a fugitive, they'll send a gang of baboons, and them baboons will capture you and hold you, run up and grab you, and you couldn't get away. How you gonna get away from a big old baboon? Well, how about that it was a prophet that told our ancestors during the Babylonian wars that it was over with, and that, that the land was going to be destroyed and everybody was going to be driven out. And how about the people didn't want to hear that? And King Jehoiakim, who Necho, the Sattite king, put on the throne when they killed his daddy, King Josiah. See, now this son should have been real upset and never wanted to cooperate with the Egyptians because the Egyptians killed his father, and his father was a prophecy king. Was a prophecy king. King Josiah was a prophecy king that went all the way back to the Jeroboam days when Solomon died. After Solomon had chased Jeroboam into Egypt, and then he come out when Solomon died, and then how he brought the Egyptian religion and put the Egyptian religion on us. Jeroboam did. And then, how he went to Egypt, and then I could show this other prophet being chased into Egypt. But Jehoiakim should have been real upset about his father being killed by the Egyptians. We had a terrible relationship with the Egyptians, a terrible relationship with the Egyptians. And I want to go into that prophet, and then I'm going to go to the maps and show the maps again, because it's startling how close the promised land is to Egypt. So, we know during the time of the Babylonian wars, when our ancestors say that they was going into Africa to live, we should know that Egypt is very close to the promised land, and that once we got into Africa, it was basically over with. You didn't hear no more other 99% that ran into Africa. And then I could show that it wasn't no whole lot of people took to Babylon, and that it was just a fruit, and that the majority of the people ran into Africa. Let me show that map, and then I'm gonna go to the I'm gonna go to the scriptures and show how this prophet ran into Egypt and how he was apprehended real quick. All right, look at this, Hebrews. Look at this, man. This is startling. How close the promised land is to Egypt. Look, all right, man. I never did go into detail showing up close how the highways and how it's just a straight shot. Look, man, that's a straight shot. That's a straight shot. That's a straight shot from the promised land. This is the promised land right here. This is our territory. This is mostly where the people will be driven to from the northern kingdom, and then this is how they would go into Egypt. Remember, these highways been there forever, for thousands of years, and this is how they did trade with Egypt. The eastern nations, they would take these highways. Them highways been there for thousands of years, way before we was an Israelite nation and people. Them highways was there because people did trade with Egypt, and this is how our father Abraham would have came into Egypt, as well as Jacob and his sons come into Egypt. Look how close that is. But look right here, you can see settlements. Man, I'm talking about they got settlements on the way. Look, those are settlements. And those are settlements. Look, those are towns right there. Those are towns right there. Those are towns right there. So all the way to Egypt, man, it would have been like little towns and little settlements and so forth. And now those towns been there forever. Those towns been there forever. But look, it's a straight shot. Man, a straight shot to Egypt. So look, you in Egypt now. Look, you in Egypt now. Straight shot to Egypt. Look, you in Egypt now. You in Africa now. Even though, the Sinai and the Promised Land is on the African plateau. When Africa moved, the Promised Land moved. But look, you in Africa now. You in Egypt. That's that little town right there. Alright, Hebrews, let's look at this other map. Real close. The Promised Land ain't nowhere from Egypt. Nowhere from Egypt. Alright. Get a little close. They had to know that we was going to discover this one day. Our enemies had to know that we was going to discover this one day, and that Egypt is nowhere from the Promised Land. I'm talking about in running distance, a straight shot. A straight shot. Man, a straight shot. Look, from right here, man, from right over here, going down this highway right here. A straight shot going down that highway. Going down that highway, and then you in the Egypt right there. You in the Africa. Big old continent, wide open. It's like this the front door right here. This the front door. And once you get right there, back in the days, they didn't have the boundaries and the political boundaries that they have today. They didn't get them political boundaries to the League of Nations divided Africa up. Until the League of Nations divided Africa up, and then that's when you get those boundaries with these nations and them names. And basically them peoples didn't even really call themselves by them names, and how they just basically started agreeing with it, and how they had different names for the settlements and the peoples inside Africa. Everything was done over to hide the Israelite heritage. They don't want you to find no sources or no connection nowhere. But you see how Egypt is real close to the promised land. I'm talking about real close. Real close. Man, Egypt so close to the promised land. Man, that's a straight shot. That's a highway. Man, that's a straight shot. So, okay, check this out. It was a prophet named Urijah that Jehoiakim, brung out of Egypt. And then I can imagine, the Metajays. The Metajay, that's going to be the name of the, Egyptian police. The Metajays. And the Metajays would capture the people. They would do the same functioning. They would have the same functioning as the police have today. Look, you see, and then they would use baboons to capture. All right, look at here. Let's go to this here history, and I'm gonna show how this Hebrew prophet ran to Egypt, and then how they would go get him. So it had to be a short distance from him to run to Egypt and then get brung back. You know what I'm saying? That fast. All right. In the beginning, this is Jeremiah 26. In the beginning of the reign of Jehoiakim, the son of Josiah, king of Judah, came this word from the Elohim, saying, Thus saith the Elohim, stand in the court of the Elohim house, and speak unto all the cities of Judah, which come to worship in the Elohim's house. All the words that I command thee to speak unto them, diminish not a word. If so be they will hearken and turn every man from his evil way, that I may repent me of the evil which I propose to do unto them, because of the evil of their doings. And listen, the evil of our doings, and the Creator said that he was going to, put some evil on us. That evil was none other than Ashkenazi. Ashkenazi, if you read the book of Habakkuk, he telling you what Ashkenazi was going to be about. And when the Creator told them people from the northern kingdom to come on down and get us, it was a wrap. And we were going to Egypt. As I showed that Egypt is just a small distance from the Creator. Look, if so be they will hearken and turn every man from his evil way, that I may repent me of the evil which I propose to do unto them, because of the evil of their doings. And they shall say unto them, and thou shalt say unto them, This saith the Elohim, if ye will not hearken to me, to walk in my law which I have set before you, to hearken to the words of my servant the prophets, whom I sent unto you, both rising up early and sending them, but ye have not hearkened, then will I make the house like Shiloh, and will make this city a curse to all nations of the earth. So the priests and the prophets and all the people heard Jeremiah speaking these words in the house of the Elohim. Now it come to pass, when Jeremiah had made an end of speaking all the words that the Elohim command him to speak unto all the people, that the priests and the prophets and all the people took him, saying, Thou shalt surely die. Because he telling them, hey, y'all got this with Prophet Jeremiah saying, hey, man, we got to straighten up. It's finna be over with. The Creator told me personally that he finna destroy us, and the whole land finna be empty of Hebrews. And we didn't want to hear that, because we had it going on, and we had all the wickedness going on, and we couldn't see right. We was messed up. Like, I got a video showing that how the Creator say we can hear but can't hear, and we got eyes to see but can't see. We was messed up, up on that Egyptian religion. As could be shown how Jehoiakim wasn't mad at Necho for killing his father and putting us on the Egyptian religion. So Jehoiakim had to been down with that. And the Egyptian would pick their man, being that they took his brother, his older brother, away and took him to Egypt. That's going to be the brother that didn't want nothing to do with the Egyptian religion. So they going to snatch him up and take him on to Egypt, get him out the picture, and then put the Jehoiakim on. And then Jehoiakim would take us to the Egyptian religion. And I'm going to show you how the Egyptians cooperated with him. Had to. Look, then See, then will I make this house like Silo, and will make this city a curse to all the nations of the earth. So the priests and the prophets and all the people heard Jeremiah speaking these words in the house of the Elohim. Now it come to pass, when Jeremiah had made an end of speaking all that the Elohim had commanded him to speak unto all the people, that the priests and the prophets and all the people took him, saying, Thou shalt surely die. Why hast thou prophesied in the name of the Elohim, saying, This house shall be like Silo, and this city shall be desolate without an inhabitant? And all the people were gathered against Jeremiah in the house of the Elohim. Oh, okay, when he said that the house, that the land will be without an inhabitant, okay, the people would have to be driven somewhere. And I can show you that we said we were scared of the Chaldeans and that we was going to Egypt to live. And then we know that the Egyptian borders is not what it is today. So, you know, Egypt was way down in the Sahara, as can be shown with baby pyramids in Lower Libya. You know, I got a video dedicated to that too. All right. The people said, Why hast thou prophesied in the name of the Elohim, saying, This house shall be like Silo, and this city shall be desolate without an inhabitant? And all the people were gathered against Jeremiah in the house of the Elohim. And when the princes of Judah heard these things, then they came up from the king's house unto the house of the Elohim, and sat down in the entering of the new gate of the Elohim's house. Then spake the priests and the prophets unto the princes and to all the people, saying, This man is worthy to die, for he had prophesied against this city, as ye have heard with your ears. Then spake Jeremiah unto all the princes and to all the people, saying, The Elohim sent me to prophesy against this house and against this city all the words that ye have heard. Man, he telling him, man, the Creator told me to come say this to y'all. He ain't have no choice but to go say it to the people, whether they liked it or not. I'm talking about the Creator sent him. How you gonna buck the Creator? It's impossible. So him telling them that the Creator sent him, man, you know what I'm saying? And being that we did worship the Creator, we had some believers, but they wasn't on par like they were supposed to be. And then, you know, the prophet Jeremiah saying that the Creator sent him, man, that's something real serious. Then speak Jeremiah to all the princes and to all the people, saying, The Elohim sent me to prophesy against this house and against this city all the words that ye have heard. Therefore now amend your ways and your doings, and obey the voice of the Elohim your Yah, and the Elohim will repent him of the evil that he hath pronounced against you. As for me, behold, I am in your hands. Do with me as seemeth good and meet unto you. Man, he said, man, y'all got me to do whatever you want to. The Creator sent me. I don't care what you do. You know what I'm saying? Y'all can do what you want to me, but the Creator sent me to tell you this. As for me, behold, I am in your hands. Do with me as seemeth good and meet unto you. But know ye for certain that if ye put me to death, ye shall surely bring innocent blood upon yourselves and upon this city and upon the inhabitants thereof. For of a truth the Elohim had sent me unto you to speak all these words in your ears. Then spake the princes and all the people unto the priests and the prophets, This man is not worthy to die, for he had spoken to us in the name of the Elohim our Yah. Then rose up certain of the elders of the land and spake to all the assembly of the people, saying, Micah the Mosherite prophets in the days of Hezekiah king of Judah, and spake to all the people of Judah, saying, Thus saith the Elohim of hosts, Zion shall be plowed like a field, and Jerusalem shall become heaps, in the mountains of the house and the high places of a forest. Did Hezekiah king of Judah and all Judah put him at all to death? Did he not fear the Elohim and besought the Elohim, and the Elohim repented him of the evil which he had pronounced against them? This might we procure great evil against our souls. And there was also a man that prophesied in the name of the Elohim. Now check this out. Urijah, the son of Shema of Kirath Jearim, who prophesied against this city and against the land according to all the words of Jeremiah. And when Jehoiakim the king with all his mighty men and all the princes heard his words, the king sought to put him to death. But when Urijah heard it, he was afraid and fled and went into Egypt. So, man, he had to go into Egypt real fast. He had to go into Egypt real fast. He had to get to Egypt real fast because, he probably didn't have a chance to prepare running and, some food or nothing. So he gonna have to get down real fast to Egypt. And then we know that the Egyptians use monkeys, baboons and stuff to apprehend criminals and stuff, man. And I bet you they did something real evil to that prophet when they apprehend them, because the Egyptians hated the creator. They did not want to worship the Yah that we worship. And I show you this in other videos too. Alright, but look here. So when that prophet Urijah fled to Egypt, man, it's real close. Man, I'm talking about it's real close. When he fled to Egypt, he gonna be leaving these parts. He gonna be leaving these parts over here. Then he gonna get on down. This ain't no long way. He could have had a horse and got there in 2 days looking. Then he gonna get on down. This a straight shot. One highway, one road. One road straight to Egypt. One road straight to Africa. And bang, he up in Africa. You know what I'm saying? And then him being in Africa, and Jehoiakim gonna send some folks to get him, some Hebrews to get him. And then they go back to the Egyptian police force. Look, that's how they police force got down. They would capture you with a baboon. They'll send a baboon to capture you. I'm telling you, nothing you can do. Baboon run up and grab you, is over with. It's a wrap. But that's how they got down Egypt. So, they would chase that Hebrew into Egypt. And look, check this out. And Jehoiakim the king sent men into Egypt, namely Nathan, the son of Achabar, and certain men with him into Egypt. And they fetched forth Urijah out of Egypt and brought him unto Jehoiakim the king, and who slew him with the sword and cast his dead body into the grave of the common people. Now that was some wicked, dirty, low down stuff what Jehoiakim did. But Jehoiakim was riding with the Egyptians. He was riding with the Egyptians, and the Egyptians killed his father. To show you how messed up in the mind we was as Hebrews. We was messed up. Here it is, the Egyptians and then killed his father, and then he working with the Egyptians. He working with the Egyptians. And like I say, we Israelites will be driven into Africa, all the tribes, and how it wasn't no 10 lost tribes. And then if you read, I think this is the part right here. Well, everybody is driven into Africa. Alright. During the Babylonian wars, because the creator was sending the Babylonians in to get us, the evil. And all the people, both small and great, and the captains of the armies arose and came to Egypt, for they was afraid of the Chaldeans. So Egypt had to be real close. I'm talking about we going back and forth, in and out of Egypt. We going back and forth, in and out of Egypt. I mean, that's like one time, I'm saying, I think, let me find that verse where I think it's Isaiah 51:4, where it even said that, the tribe of Ephraim, we would have an on and off relationship with the Assyrians, and how they tried to pull a fast one, and then how the tribes of Ephraim would go hide down into Egypt. For this said the Elohim, this is Isaiah 52:4. For this said the Elohim, Yah, my people went down aforetime into Egypt to sojourn there, and the Assyrians oppressed them without cause. That's going to be having to be doing the satire history. Prophet Isaiah prophesies, everything to man, about, the Egyptians and our relations with the Assyrians, and everything came to pass. That's like this, you can see in history, and it's called the Satire History of Egypt. The Satire History of Egypt. And this was wrote in 725 BC. This would be 3 years before the so-called Assyrian captivity, but the Assyrians came into Egypt in 691, 671 BC, something like that, and put the Mishwish kings on the throne. That'd be one of the ones that would kill King Josiah and put his son on the throne, who would, take us to the Egyptian religion, and then how we will be chased off the land, and the land will become desolate and empty, just like the Creator said. And then I'm showing how Egypt was real close, nowhere. And once we got inside the front door, you know what I'm saying, it was a wrap. And in that day there shall be a highway out of Egypt to Assyria, and the Assyrians shall come into Egypt, and the Egyptians into Assyria, and the Egyptians shall serve with the Assyrians. In that day Israel shall be a third with Egypt and with Assyria, even a blessing in the midst of the land, and whom the Elohim of hosts shall bless, saying, Blessed be Egypt, my people, and Assyria, the work of my hand, and Israel, mine inheritance. So, this would be the last time, the last part of the Assyrian history. They was attacked by the peoples from the Caucasus Mountain, Ashkenazi and them, destroyed Assyria. And they would come get us and chase us up off the land, and they would chase us into Egypt. And as I've showed, that Egypt is nowhere. Egypt is nowhere from the promised land. Look, straight shot. Bam. You're in the promised land right here. This Egypt borders right here. And it's like in the ancient days, the Sinai was part of the Egyptian Empire. But you see how it's a straight shot from the promised land, man, to Egypt. So, it's impossible for our enemies not to recognize this now, and how we're going to have to start pushing this, Hebrews. We're going to have to start showing our enemies that how it's a short distance between Egypt and the promised land, and then how the Hebrews would run to Egypt from the promised land. All right, Hebrews, these are the peoples that destroyed, man, Assyria. Them Scythians is the code name for Ashkenazi. Ashkenazi and the Scythians is the same peoples. The Scythians and Ashkenazi gonna be the same people. Alright, this will be their territory, and how they circled Assyria, and then they will war with Assyria, and Assyria will come get us Hebrews to help them fight them. And how, our sin, because we was on Egyptian religion, we couldn't help them. We couldn't help ourselves, and how our enemies would come destroy all of us, the Assyrian Empire, and drive us into Africa. They would drive us into Africa, and that's a fact. Okay, look here. Let's show how we Hebrews went into Africa. And this would be us going into Africa, to be Jeremiah 43. This would be the last time we will be seen on the promised land, during the Babylonian wars. And how our enemies ain't never spoke about this. Alright, when the Creator has sent Ashkenazi in to chase us off, we took on off. They had captured some of us. That's the book of Ezekiel. Tell you some of us being took into that was the first wave around about 595 BC, and then they would come back again, and then this would be the time that we'll take off. All right, and it come to pass that when Jeremiah had made an end of speaking all unto the people all the words of the Elohim their Yah, for which the Elohim their Yah had sent him to them, even all these words, then spake Azariah the son of Hoshea, and Johan the son of Ker, and all the proud men, saying unto Jeremiah, Thou speakest falsely. The Elohim our Yah hath not sent thee to say, Go not into Egypt to sojourn there. But Baruch the son of Ner said it thee on against us, for to deliver us into the hand of the Chaldeans, that they might put us to death and carry us away captive to Babylon. See, we weren't trying to hear that. So we took on off to Egypt, to Africa, as I showed that that is no distance. That is no distance, man. I'm talking about this a short distance, man. I could see running there with a bottle of water and a little food. You know what I'm saying? You can get on that highway and you get the jogging and stuff. You know you're going to need some rest. But, you know, it's no distance. It's a straight shot. It's one highway. You can't miss. Once you get on that one highway, you into Egypt. So this would be how we would travel to Egypt in, you know, the ancient times when when we had troubles, we would be driven into Egypt. But during the Babylonian wars, all of us was driven into Egypt, Africa. And then if you look, man, you'll see settlements all along the Nile and everything. Settlements, all them settlements right there. And it's all kind of settlements in the Sahara. Man, you see they got highways. Them white lines would be the highways. And man, there's settlements everywhere. Man, I was startled, you know, when I did an up close view, you know what I'm saying, with the satellite, how settlements was everywhere. Man, I'm talking about, man, they had a lot of settlements. Okay. This map. All these settlements. All that little green is going to be where the people settled at. Alright, all down now. But it's nowhere from the promised land to Egypt. Nowhere. Walking distance. Running distance. Alright. So the Creator told us, you know, we would be driven off the land, and we was driven off the land. And I got a lot of verses showed that how we was told that the land will be desolate, and the land become desolate, and we was chased into Africa. And then I wonder, you know, because them Egyptians, they gonna hurry up and let us in there, knowing that we won't be in the way or stopping them from going across the promised land. Man, I wonder how many of us, you know, that's gonna have to be a Hebrew right there that they putting them monkeys on, or arresting them with the monkeys. The baboons, they will put dogs and monkeys on you. That's an awful thing. You know, they ain't have no guns back then, so they gonna use the worst of the worst thing to apprehend you, and then they would use monkeys and dogs. But baboons, a baboon will run up and grab you, it's over with. You apprehended. You know, them pictures being nice, showing how that person is being apprehended by that baboon. Alright, shalom, Hebrews. This is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. I'm going to be doing more videos of the maps. Like I say, I'm startled and took by surprise. I should have been looked at how close Egypt was to the promised land. I'm talking about, man, it's in running distance. And, you know, that's kind of, you know, our enemies can't, you know, dispute that. And they're going to have to start acknowledging this sooner or later. We're going to have to start putting this on them, how close Egypt is to the promised land. I'm talking about real close. And that how the whole Hebrew nation ran into Africa, saying that they wasn't going to do the Egyptian religion, since it never was any 10 lost tribes. And now that 10 lost tribes stuff is a crazy lie. Is a crazy lie. Alright, shalom, Hebrews. This is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. The distance from the promised land to Egypt ain't nowhere. They can hang it up. We got them now. All we got to do is start pushing this, how Egypt is real close to the promised land, and how come the Hebrews all couldn't have ran into Africa, which we did, and the Tanakh support that history. That's the only history that the Tanakh show, is how the Hebrews ran back into Egypt, Africa, to do the Egyptian religion. But like I say, our history fell into the hand of some Babylonian scribes. And them Babylonian scribes forged false history. You know what I'm saying? They've been telling a lie to the world about the Israelite history, because they've been trying to keep their history hid. They've been trying to keep who they are hid. And then this gonna be the The Babylonian scribes. Those Babylonian scribes right there. Those Babylonian scribes right there are responsible, as well as Ashkenazi too. They're responsible for distorting the Israelites' history. It's like when we went into Egypt to do the Egyptian religion, we abandoned our heritage to those folks right there. And they was Amorites already. They was from this town called Sippar and Babylon. And they was Amorites. And they was Amorites when they was placed in our land in 722 BC by the king of Assyria. And how they was book writers and storytellers then. And how we didn't do nothing to them. We didn't try to drive them off. We didn't try to do nothing. And then our sin, and they would sit back in the cut and watch us sin. Like now, they probably enticing us to sin. And then when them Babylonians pull up, they kindreds, we will go into Africa and leave our heritage to them, to the Sephardi groups. And who chased us into Africa is none other than Ashkenazi. Ashkenazi chased us into Africa. This is how the Sephardi groups and the Ashkenazi groups get our heritage during the Babylonian wars, because we said we didn't want to do the covenant. It's like, what the prophet Jeremiah had said in Lamentations, how our enemies was, was the ones, our friends turned into our enemies, and they was the reason for us getting tore up, because we trusted the Egyptians and we trusted the Assyrians, and they didn't mean us no good, because we wasn't on their gods. We didn't have the same gods that they had, and we worship the creator of the whole earth and the heavens, whereas the people, our enemies, worship the God's sons, the fallen angelic beings, and so forth. So we had the real truth. And when them people chased us up out the land, and then our heritage fell to the Sephardi groups, the Sephardims, who was placed in Samaria in 722, and it was Ashkenazi who chased us up off the land. And that's what the book of Habakkuk is about. That's what the book of Habakkuk is about. It's like the prophet Nahum tell you about the Assyrian destruction and how they was going to get destroyed by them same folks. And then Habakkuk tell you how we was going to get destroyed and what we would go through by the same people that destroyed Assyria. And that's going to be Ashkenazi. Ashkenazi coming to our heritage under the name Scythian. And you can see they presence, in Jerusalem right now. They the ones that shot the promised land up to where they still finding Scythian arrowheads. History real quiet about this, but them people know the part that they played in the Israelite heritage, but they not gonna say nothing if the world ain't saying nothing. You see, it benefit the non-pigmented peoples to accept Ashkenazi and the Sephardi's as being the Israelites, because then it kind of justify what they doing to the earth and what they doing and stuff, because they say that they God chosen people. So therefore, if the Ashkenazi is non-pigmented and he doing all this other stuff on the earth, then the other people think that they got the right to do the same thing, the non-pigmented peoples. And how it's been a con game, a bluff con game the whole time. And them will be the arrowheads. This is just some of the arrowheads. I got arrowheads of all kinds that they shot at the promised land. Alright, Hebrews, like I say, we need to look at the maps and see how close Jerusalem is to Egypt, and it's real close. And then I show how we Hebrews ran into Africa and how we never returned, how we never returned home after the Babylonian wars ended. When the Persians beat the Babylonians up and then took Egypt over, that gave us a chance to come out of Africa to be reunited with the Hebrews that was freed from the Babylonian captivity. But that never happened, because us Hebrews that ran into Africa say that we was going into Egypt to worship the Egyptian religion. Then all the men which knew that their wives had burnt incense unto other gods, and all the women that stood by a great multitude, even all the people that dwell in the land of Egypt. And Pathros answered Jeremiah, saying, As for the word that thou hast spoken unto us in the name of the Elohim, we would not hearken unto thee, but we would certainly do so whatever thing go forth out of our own mouth, to burn incense unto the Queen of heaven, and to pour out drink offerings unto her, as we have done, we and our fathers, our kings, our princes, in the cities of Judah and in the streets of Jerusalem. For then had we plenty of food, and were well, and saw no evil. But since we left off to burn incense unto the Queen of heaven, and to pour out drink offerings unto her, we have wanted all things, and have been consumed by the sword and by famine. That's breaking the covenant forever. That's saying that we didn't want to do the covenant no more, and how we was through with the law that Moses gave us, and how we was going to stay in Africa to live. Because if we wasn't there, that's why the reasons why the Babylonians was coming to get us and chase us off the land, because we wasn't in Africa doing they stuff. That's a warped sense of reality we had, and we was trying to justify us being kicked off the land and stuff. You know, it's like with the fox and the sour grapes and stuff, because he couldn't get the grape, he said, I bet you they were sour anyway. That's the kind of move we was pulling on the Creator when we ran into Egypt and see that because the Babylonians was coming and we was having a hard time, is because we wasn't on the African Egyptian religion, and that caused our doom. And those Hebrews never returned out of Africa, to the promised land, when these Hebrews right here was freed. And then it's a short distance. It wouldn't have been nothing, because the Persians had took Egypt in the promised land over. The whole Egypt the Persians took over. Whooped the Babylonians, took Egypt in the promised land over. And how that would have gave us that went into Africa to stay a chance to come back out and be reunited with Ezra, Nehemiah, Haggai, and Zechariah, and Malachi and them. And how we never came back out of Africa. And how, that's the end of that. And that was the 99%. We never come back out of Africa. And we had the opportunity to, because the Persians had beat and defeated the Babylonians and took Egypt over. And that would have gave us a chance to come out and be reunited with the exiles from Babylon. Because, the Persians was on friendly terms with the exiles. And they was the exiles' redeemer. The Creator had called for Cyrus to free the Hebrews before he was even born, some hundreds of years before he was born. And then when he was born, and he fulfilled their prophecy, and then when those Persians come to Egypt, that would have gave us a chance of coming back. It wasn't no long distance. It was a short distance. Hebrews could have just started coming out of Egypt and Africa and being reunited with the exiles, because we would have known that, the Persians was, cool with everybody and so forth, because, they understood what prophet Isaiah had said from the beginning, So, man, it's a lot going on. So our enemies back finna start being against the wall when we show that it's no distance from the promised land to Egypt, and how all the Hebrews ran to Egypt. Let me show this again. Go to 1 Kings. That's going to be 1 Kings 11. Look. And Solomon sought therefore to kill Jeroboam. And Jeroboam arose and fled into Egypt, unto Shawshank, who going to be his relative. Shawshank, king of Egypt, and was in Egypt until the death of Solomon. Solomon couldn't go in there and do nothing to him. But look, just like that prophet had fled the promised land Urijah and went into Egypt, and how I could show countless times that we always wanted to return back to Egypt. And then I could show how the tribe of Ephraim did trade with the Egyptians, so it wouldn't have been nothing for us to go to Egypt, and how Egypt was real close to us. I'm talking about real close. Man, in running distance. Egypt was in running distance from the promised land. You can get to Egypt. You can leave the promised land without no water and survive, and probably get there to Egypt and survive, and wouldn't be dehydrated. It's how close it was. Look, Ephraim feedeth on wind and followeth after the east wind. He daily increases lies and desolation, and they do make a covenant with the Assyrians, and oil is carried into Egypt. That's Hosea 12:1. So the tribe of Ephraim went into Egypt all the time because they did trade. They was the middleman with the Assyrians and the Egyptians. You know, it would make sense for the Assyrians to get the Hebrews the oil instead of going all the way into Egypt, and we take it into Egypt and sell it to them. And that's what happened. So it was no distance. I'm talking about you can get to Egypt in no time. We did trade. We took trade into Egypt, and it's only one highway to do it. You see what I'm saying? It's only one highway to do it. One road, a straight shot. All right, shalom, Hebrews. This is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. Our enemy's back finna start being against the wall when we start pushing this history right here, showing that we went into Africa. And if we went into Africa by way of Egypt, and then Prophet Jeremiah had said this too. This what Prophet Jeremiah said this. If you go to Jeremiah 40, 44. Look, the whole land was empty. This said the Elohim of hosts, the Yah of Israel. Ye have seen all the evil that I have brought upon Jerusalem and upon all the cities of Judah. And behold, this day they are a desolation, and no man dwelleth therein. And then as you read down, it say, and that ye provoked me unto the wrath with the works of your hands, bringing incense unto other gods in the land of Egypt, where ye be gone to dwell, that ye might cut yourselves off, and that ye might be a curse and a reapproach among all the nations of the earth. How was they going to get to all nations of the earth? How was they going to get to all nations of the earth from Africa unless it was the transatlantic slave trade? The only thing that took Hebrews to all points of the earth, but we know that we really in, feeling that prophecy because the Hebrews is in the military and so forth and being taken all over the earth. But you see this right here. Look, in the Elohim, this is one of the curses that Prophet Moses said would be against the Hebrews when the covenant was broken. And the Elohim shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships. Man, you see that S on the end of ships? By the way whereof I spake unto thee, and thou shalt see it no more again, and there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondman and bondwoman, and no man shall buy you, meaning that nobody could bring no gold and get you out of bondage. Back in the days, you could bring some gold to your oppressors and your captors, and they'll free you. Well, this time that couldn't happen, and we will be taken to Egypt in ships with an S on it. And it's a known fact that it took 275 years with 1 million a year being removed from Africa. So when we be saying, oh, it was just 100 million of us took it. No, it was twice that. It was 275 million taken from us. And look, we would go from Egypt, go down in these parts right over here. And this is where they would capture us at. We would have conflict with the Congo groups, and we would have conflict with the Angola groups and the Chad groups. These folks down here, what they call the Bantus, is the people that we had trouble with. Ironic how they want to call us Bantus and say we come off them, when it was the Bantus that we had conflict with, and we was up in these parts, and they would sell us to the traders, that occupied West Africa. They still got the dungeons and so forth, and then they would, take us to the Americas, and here we be with a blotted out heritage that we putting back together. Like I say, the promised land, nowhere. The promised land is nowhere from from Egypt. And they even had settlements on the way. Man, I'm talking about a lot of settlements on the way. They had towns and cities on the way. So we would have got some refreshments on the way from the promised land to Egypt. They go to promised land. That's that one highway. That's the one shot. One shot. One shot there. One shot. Then once you're in Egypt, it's a wrap. The enemies can hang it up. We're going to run around into Egypt We're gonna run around we're gonna run around in Africa until the curses get us. And then that would be the water drying up on us in the Sahara. You know, we had a way to bring water off and underground, but it dried up on us. And then it caused us to have conflict with the other Africans. And then that would cause our enslavement right there. We couldn't get away from the curses. All right, Hebrews, this is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood.